Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name's VinPF, and on today's episode we're going to be covering another In the Welsh Wind independently bottled whiskey. Now you guys know I've been covering a lot of In the Welsh Wind recently. I've covered a few of their bottles and rum that they've done, mainly because I've been down there a couple of times over the last few years. They're not far away from where I tend to go on a bit of an annual family holiday in Pembrokeshire, Wales. And while I've been there, I've been really impressed with the kind of quality of the liquid that they're producing, and the 30-litre casks that they are kind of aging in right now are really good. You know, I've been trying some of their samples whenever I've been. So the last time I went, about a year ago, I bought a cask when I was there. And obviously I've entered into a bit of a kind of like conversation with those guys because they're really good. The way they're making whiskey is slightly different. My big interest in them is the ice still that they're using, which is very interesting, and they're going to be, I think, probably the closest to releasing a whiskey that I can find anyway. So that's a bit of a long story long, but yeah, one thing I do have is my year one cask sample. So I'd be interested to know from you guys if you want to see a video on that or not, and I can let you know how it's getting along, but obviously that's going to be a very subjective thing because I'm going to be tasting the liquid that hopefully I'll be putting out for sale in a couple of years. But do keep an eye on that. And again, as I always say, make sure you join my Discord. That's in the links below, because people like my patrons and my Discord are going to get first access to that. So make sure you're a member of those communities if you're interested in getting hold of things first. I don't think there's going to be very many bottles of that. So there you go. But getting back to this one then, what we have here is another independently bottled In the Welsh Wind. Now they've done two whiskies now that are independently bottled, both Mackmyra. The previous one, which was just a Mackmyra age stated. This one here is a Mackmyra Gruvguld. I'm not sure if that's a kind of massacre of the pronunciation, Gruvguld, which literally directly translates to gold from the mines. Now, eagle-eyed viewers will know that the Mackmyra released their own whiskey under that same name a good few years ago now. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. It's a slightly different percentage. That was 46.1, this is 46.3, but the concept is essentially the same. The recipe is not quite the same, I don't think, because their seasonal release, as they called it back then, that's obviously long gone, that's long sold out. I tried to find some prices to compare with this online, and even now, I mean, like, Hard to Find Whiskey has it for like £100. I'm not sure what it was at retail, probably a little bit cheaper than that. But yeah, probably around the same price as this is going to be, which is £65. But we'll get into the price a bit later on, as always, after the actual tasting. Now this one here is, as I mentioned earlier, about 30-litre casks. This is what they're calling a celebration of 30-litre casks. So I'll hold you up the old bottle so you can see a bit more. But yeah, you can see down here it says celebrating small casks. So this was predominantly aged in 30-litre casks. And again, I'm not sure how many casks there are, but loads of stuff have gone into the recipe of this. Mackmyra have got loads of different recipes on their cards, but this is mainly from their elegant recipe, which is their unpeated recipe, but there are some peated elements to it, and there's been loads of finishes on these casks as well. The ones that they talk about a lot in the kind of the media gubbins is Oloross and PX, but I believe there are others, and the casks makeups are some Swedish oak and some American oak as well. So yeah, there's lots of different flavour profiles going on here. Very interesting whiskey, but I think the main thing to do is to get straight into the tasting and see what we've got. I believe it's natural colour and non-chill filtered, so I'm going to say, you know, an acceptable copper colour. This is a kind of perfect of, I don't know anything about the age dates on this. That's one thing I will say, is that the Gruvguld that Mackmyra put out, they had up to like 16 years in some of those casks, but they would have used quite a lot of casks to put that out. I don't know anything about the ages on this, but I can't imagine it's youthful. That's all I'll say. I can't imagine it's too youthful, because they'd have just had these casks knocking about for a while. That's what Mackmyra do. They've got a huge library of 30-litre casks right now, and you can buy those things like I did with my own Mackmyra bottling. And I'm a big fan of Mackmyra, so let's get into the actual tasting and see what we've got on the nose, shall we? Now for me, as a big fan of Mackmyra, I'm getting the Mackmyra DNA all over this. I've said many times before when I'm talking about Mackmyra that if you do a vertical tasting of Mackmyra, let's say, or if you manage to get hold of like 3 or 4 at a time, one thing I think that you'll pick up is a kind of tropical flavour that goes through it. It's a little bit like those fruit salads that we used to get as sweets when we were kids. You know, you get the fruit salads and the blackjacks. It's the fruit salads that kind of like rhubarby, banana, pineapple-y vibes going on. I get that in every Mackmyra I've ever tried, including my own one. But for me, it's got a really nice, rich, kind of creamy nose. Dare I say creamy on the nose, but it's fruity and it's a little bit tannic as well. There's some oak elements coming through to it as well, which leads me to believe it's not that youthful. Lovely, lovely on the nose. Let's get onto the palate. Now, it's a game of 2 halves for me. It starts out really kind of like juicy and bold. I'm getting lots of these are weird tasting notes for me, but some blackberries and some lighter elements of like melon and things like that, which are coming through. Once that kind of fruitiness has gone off, then you're getting things like the toasted oak are coming through, more of those tannins are coming through, some leathery notes, some tobacco notes, and then it finishes off with a little bit of pepperiness on the back end. Now this is all really interesting combinations, because all the things I said about the cask types and the kind of the pre-use of those casks, you know, like the sherries, for example, I know all of that, and I'm still not getting those kind of predominant flavours. That's how well balanced this whiskey is. It's not overly kind of spiking in any particular flavour profile. It comes in waves. You know, you get something here, you get something there. Your mood might change. You might get something different. It's kind of a really like multi-layered whiskey, which I'm really enjoying. The finish is, I would say it's not huge. It's kind of medium-y. It sticks around with a little bit of that fruit, sours out towards the back end where you kind of got the oaky elements are coming through, and the pepperiness that I always love on a whiskey, that's coming through on the back end as well. Yeah, for me, this is a really tasty dram. I'm absolutely loving this, and I'm loving working with the Welsh Wind guys, because although, you know, they've been obviously working with Mackmyra, and Mackmyra get themselves in quite a lot of places. So yeah, you might be forgiven for thinking, obviously they've done 2 independent bottles, 2 Mackmyras, but there's a reason for that. Mackmyra is very good, and they've obviously got a good working relationship with Mackmyra, which I commend them for, because I love working with Mackmyra as well. Really great company to work for. So are In the Welsh Wind. They're doing some wonderful stuff. And I hope that these independently bottled things, I think there's, I might have said this earlier, but there's 300 bottles of this, so there's not much going. So if you are interested in it, make sure you go and check them out. There's no affiliate links or anything like that for me this time, so you can go and check those out without any kind of, you know, influence from me, I guess, apart from my enthusiasm for it. But I'll drop a link to their website below, which is the only place you can get hold of this thing. I think it's great. I'm really loving this stuff. I'm really looking forward to bringing you more In the Welsh Wind in the future, including my own bottle, but also hopefully they'll release some actual whiskey of their own at some point, and I can bring that to you as well. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the thumbs up if you have, and I'll see you again on more No Nonsense Whiskey videos in the future. I'll say cheers to you. Catch you again.